Yemenis celebrate the 14th of October revolution anniversary while Aden is unstable and Sana'a kidnapped by Houthi. Yemen representative to the United Nations informs the Security Council of Houthi violations in Abdiyah. International Migration Organization warns of new displacement waves in 3 governorates. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rana Swaylam. Yemenis across the country commemorate the 58th anniversary of 14th of October revolution against the British colonialism. Today, in similar situations, Yemenis reunite again to restore Yemen as it was before. This report has more on this story.
In situations similar to those that Yemen was experiencing in the early 60s, Yemenis celebrates the anniversary of the October 14th revolution against British colonialism in southern Yemen. This revolution represented a strong support for the September 26th revolution against the regime of the Imams north of the country. Several forces went from the south to the north to end the rule of the backward regime. This happened when royalist forces were besieging Sana'a and hoping to end the Republican regime. October 14th revolutionaries forced the British Empire to leave, the birth of the Democratic Republic of Yemen to be synonymous with the Yemeni Arab Republic, before the victory of the 2 revolutions culminated in the reunification of the country and the establishment of the Republic of Yemen in May 1990. Today, while the new imamate sits on the capital Sana'a, Aden is leading as the temporary capital of the country, the military, cultural and economic confrontation with the Houthi militias. It is on the path of overthrowing the racist project and victory for the goals of the 2 great revolutions, as happened more than 50 years ago, when thousands of volunteers flocked from southern and northern Yemen to Sana'a to fight against the imamate and end the siege that was imposed on it for a period of 70 days. On this day in 1963, while the revolutionaries were returning from the north, where they were fighting with the Republican regime, confrontations with the British colonial forces erupted. Ghalib bin Labuza launched the spark of the revolution from Redfern Mountains. Commando operations against the British occupation forces continued and extended to Aden City, the center of the British presence. The confrontations continued until the British colonialism was forced on November 13th to leave and declare independence. Since the beginning of the nascent republic in the south, reunification of the 2 parts of Yemen was a primary goal for the revolution. Despite the periods of conflict generated by local conditions and international competition, sacrifices made by Yemenis in the south and the north resulted in the declaration of unity. Today, this is embodied in the unity of the battle against Houthi militia. Yemenis categorically reject Houthi projects to restore the backward racist imamate regime as they continue to fight for equality, rights, and freedom.
The General People's Congress concluded a 2-day virtual sessions with the Communist Party of China. The Yemeni team was headed by Assistant Secretary General Fa'iqa Al-Sayed. During the talks, Al-Sayed stressed that China has an important role in calling for lifting unfair sanctions that are imposed against late President Ali Abdullah Saleh and Ambassador Ahmed Ali Abdullah Saleh. She reiterated that these sanctions are politically driven and have no legal justification. Al-Sayed called on the international community to stand by the Yemeni people to end the Houthi coup, restore the state and order of law. To Ma'rib, 10 civilians were killed and injured in a Houthi missile attack on a fuel station in Al Juba district. The Yemeni Minister of Information said rebels launched a ballistic missile, killing 4 civilians, including 2 women, and wounding 6 with 2 children among them. He added that Houthis also targeted the Seoul hospital in Abdiyah district with a ballistic missile, pointing out that the hospital runs out of medical supplies due to the Houthi blockade. Still in Ma'rib, where government forces backed by tribes repelled several offensive formations of the terrorist Houthi militia in Al Juba. A military source confirmed that Houthi rebels were forced to retreat a few kilometers from the center of Juba, leaving the bodies of their dead militants behind. In the same line, about 30 Houthi militants were killed and injured after government forces opened artillery fires on their position in Al-Juba. In this regard, Yemeni Prime Minister Ma'in Abdel Malik confirmed that all efforts and capabilities are dedicated for defending Ma'rib, stressing that Yemenis are proud of the stance of the tribes in defending Ma'rib. On the political level, Prime Minister said Yemen is going through a very difficult stage. He called for unity and solidarity among all forces to get the country out of this situation. For his part, Yemeni representative to the United Nations, Abdullah al-Saadi, sent a letter to the organization regarding Houthi violations in Al-Abdiyah. Al-Saadi called on the UN to condemn Houthi crimes in Abdiyah in order to save the lives of thousands of civilians. He accused Houthis of depriving about 5,300 families in Al-Abdiyah of access to food, water, and medicine. The International Organization for Migration recorded an increase in displaced families due to latest hostilities. It said that the number of people displaced in Ma'rib, Al-Bayda, and Al-Chabwa have risen to 12,413 families since the beginning of this year. During the 6 days between October 3rd and 9th, the organization documented the displacement of 504 families. Social media became a helpful tool to represent the suffering of Al-Abdiyah due to the Houthi siege. Social activists and people denounced the blockade and posted calls to end the inhuman measures. More on this story is in the following report.
In succession, the protest campaigns denouncing the shameful international silence about the applied siege imposed by the Iran-backed Houthi militia on more than 35,000 people in Abdiyah district, south of Ma'rib Governorate, northeastern Yemen, which have led to the siege since its imposition 23 days ago. This has also led to exacerbate the suffering of the citizens. For the 23rd day in a row, the terrorist Houthi militia is imposing the most severe siege on the residents of the district, which number more than 35,000 people, and they are disturbed among no less than 5,300 families living in more than 15 tribes in the heart of the district and its outskirts. At 8 in the evening yesterday, an electronic campaign was launched on all social media to denounce the unjust siege imposed by the Houthi rebel militia for about 23 days on the residents of Al-Abdiyah district, with the aim of highlighting the campaign organized by activists under the hashtag Al-Houthi besieges Al-Abdiyah. The grave violations committed by the Iran-backed terrorist militia against the residents and displaced people in the district. The campaign participants denounced the Houthi crimes of preventing the entry of food, medicine, and relief aid to the population deprived of food and medicine, as well as preventing the exit of patients and displaced families. in addition to the missile and artillery off populated areas, calling on the United Nations and humanitarian organizations to assume their responsibilities towards the besieged population and work to bring in urgent aid and stop their suffering and grave violations against them. Political and human rights activist Sabah Al-Awadi said in a Facebook post that carried the hashtag of the campaign, Al-Abdiya district, which has no military camps or military targets, is exposed to the worst humanitarian catastrophe due to the siege imposed by the criminal Houthi group without any justification. Those interacting with the campaign confirmed that the Houthi militia siege of civilians in Abdiya district is completely incompatible with all international laws, instruments, rules, and this requires a firm stance from the international community to stop direct targeting of civilians.
The coalition in Yemen announced the destruction of 2 explosive boats belonging to the Houthi militia. Coalition said it thwarted an imminent attack. It confirmed that Houthi militias continue to threaten shipping and trade lines in Bab el-Mandab and the southern Red Sea, in violation of the Stockholm Agreement by launching hostilities from Hudaydah. Turning to Taiz, Human Rights Center held a press conference to publish a report documenting Houthi crimes against civilians. The report recorded Houthi violations against the people in Al-Ta'ziyah district at the beginning of this year.
We have documented 2,100 violations committed by Houthi militia against people of Al-Hayma Al-Ulya and the Sufla and other neighboring areas during the attack on them in early January 2021, with about 60 military vehicles in front of the whole world.
The Alliance of Political Parties in Taiz carried out a vigil to demand an increase in the city's share of domestic gas. Taiz has been witnessing an unprecedented gas crisis for weeks.
We took to the streets today demanding the increase of Taiz's share of gas. We don't know why the share is decreasing and disappearing from the market. Months ago, gas was available in small quantities, but now cooking gas is almost non-existent and unavailable. This affects the citizen who cannot afford high costs of gas. In the past, the value of cooking gas was 5,000 riyals. Today, the price is tripled. This doubles the suffering of the citizen who resorted to using firewood as a replacement to cooking gas.
Coming next. Houthi rebels use religious occasions to increase financial gains.
أقول لك راحت بالغداء لأهلها شلت الغداء وراحت بأهلها في المزرعة. والمزرعة ركبت على حمار ما حتى نص المزرعة وانفجر فيها اللغم. دعست على اللغم وانفجر فيهم. الحمار انتهى الماء ترى وتبقعت رجليها كامل. نغير منها غير الشبعلة اللي هي البنت سابحة من دور رجلين لما صافناها طبية أقرب طبية وصافناها هي بطلت رجليها كامل.
قلت أزود هلي وقابل لي لعام وطبعته تحت الزواية.
Welcome back. Houthi militia forced students and parents in the areas under their control to pay donations for celebrating a religious event. A source in the Ministry of Education said Houthi rebels in the capital Sana'a imposed financial levies under the pretext of commemorating the Prophet's birthday. According to the source, the militia will hold sectarian events and called for collecting financial donations from students, parents, as well as teachers. Misusing the religious events by the rebels continues by taking them as a way to sap Yemeni pockets. The coming report sheds light on Houthi militias' use of religious events as a reason to impose illegal taxes on Yemenis.
Instead of using religious events to group people together under love, fraternity and solidarity, Houthi rebels in Yemen do the very opposite. Houthis, who captured the Yemeni capital 7 years ago and who are continuing their illegitimate war against the Yemeni people, culture and civilization, enforce new types of Dark Age realities. Politicizing religious occasions is a hallmark for the rebels in order to drain Yemeni pockets and to sap their life-sustaining incomes. The latest example is their use of the Prophet's birth celebration as a way to gain more money. Usually, the celebrations calls in the Yemenis the memories and days related to peace and mercy spread by the Prophet and his companions. This, however, is totally abused. The poor Yemeni may even forget all meanings of mercy when he is forced by Houthis to pay a donation. The rebels are forcing people in the areas under their control to raise money under the pretext of holding a religious occasion, while on the contrary, they not only siphon Yemeni money but also stoke the war through these donations, violating the religious sublime meanings and diminishing them into worldly gains by the militia may increase the popular discontent with them. Sectarianism and racism may increase due to the Houthi mindset that looks at Yemen as an inherited right, which they hold in the past years before the revolution on their imam's rule in the 60s of the last century. With these new acts of Houthi-led hatred, no place for religious peace could prevail in a country that has been a beacon for religious diversity.
The Yemeni rial continued its downward slump against US dollar. The rial sunk further to a new historical level, recording 1,313 for the single dollar. The National Committee Against Coronavirus announced 27 new cases of the COVID-19 in 6 governorates. Also, 2 deaths were recorded, plus 16 recovered cases. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 9,439, including 1,789 deaths and 5,964 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Yemenis celebrate the 14th of October revolution anniversary while Aden is unstable and Sana'a kidnapped by Houthi. Yemen representative to the United Nations informs the Security Council of Houthi violations in Abdiyah. International Migration Organization warns of new displacement waves in 3 governorates. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching. See you soon.